All right, what's going on YouTube? Today we're going to talk about the Keynesian economic system and how does this apply to our economics. Well, you've got to look at history first of all. As the world became more globalized in its economy, more economies and countries became dependent on each other. So in the Keynesian system, it means that there's a money flow through an economy and the government or whoever will put funds through the economy either through tax breaks or programs or any kind of the system of pumping through. Now, this is where it has to be sustainable because the Chinese have done this a lot in the past 20 years and they've been building lots of cities, providing a lot of jobs in that regard, but it's not always sustainable because you got to get the money through the top of the economy and bottom, where you got to get your corporations with the sticky power so everybody wants to buy from them, and at the same time you have to have jobs provided for people so that there's less unemployment. And if there's inflation, it's always going to happen. Inflation's inevitable because prices are always going to go up. But what you got to do is make sure things are manufactured cheaper, because you got to look at the fecundity rate of an insect versus a more evolved animal, whereas an insect is going to just produce more offspring. Just like a third world country is kind of like this, where they can just create jobs for almost like giveaway prices and give people 2 cents a day, and that's better than what they're making otherwise. And so they can get lots of new jobs immediately. And they can breed factories like cockroaches would breed egg sacs and a theca. So you see where this is where the Keynesian system has been working a lot, where people will spend through the economy in certain ways to create an industrial complex. There's military industrial complex, prison industrial complex, environmental industrial complex, all different forms of everything, and where it will go through the economy. But then when it comes to the Keynesian system, this is where we understand the Great Depression. Herbert Hoover relied on the classical system and thought it would clear itself up. And now there was an extenuating environmental and economic and social anomaly that was completely making all the other approaches absolutely ineffective. Just as when you have a depression and some of these economic conditions, it means that a system of economics in the past has now become obsolete, because now we have a more complicated system as money flows through countries. And this is where the Chinese and American economies have become inseparable and need each other to function. And so when the US has a recession, then Chinese end up with vacated cities as a result, and it goes back and forth. And so when it comes to economics, we understand that as time goes on, it becomes more complicated, because then you have India's growing economy, you have changes in European economics, and everything is connected. And the money flow and everything is crucial in this pattern, because you have to have money flowing into a country from another. And so now the Japanese have had times when they've had good economic management, but they've had economic problems too. And then deflation can be another issue, where there's less demand and prices go down because people aren't buying, and it gets into a cyclic thing. And so the Keynesian system's like a seismic chart, because you understand that a reasonable amount of money pumped through the economy will create a reasonable amount of jobs they'll pump back through. But you got to keep the right balance here, because you spend too much on the economy with heavy government and everything, and then you can end up basically going kaput, because socialism can collapse under its own weight if the government's too large. Whereas if you have no government as an anarchy, then that's not going to work either. So there has to be a balance, and everybody has to find their balance, because you talk about anarchy, that would mean no president, no military or anything. So basically you understand that the government and the economy and everything get connected, and the flow of money is the crucial thing. And the flow of goods and money and demand and supply, and having businesses doing well. Now, the government should be working with businesses rather than regulating. They should be trying to set standards for businesses, help work with them on practices, try to help get businesses tax breaks if they keep more workers in the payroll, because that would help. And then they get, whatever they pumped back into that business, people be pumping as taxes instead of being unemployed. So it would go back and forth. But the key with the Keynesian system is to spend less to get more. And that's the key to it, is finding the cheapest raw materials to make the most expensive items with less money. And that's how you make the Keynesian system work.